Hey guys, it's Spacey Sims, and we are back with more Virche Evermore. Well, Epic Lycoris. We're just gonna call it Virche, whatever. We're playing the fan disc. At any rate, Virche fan disc, whatever. Continuing Mathis's encore story, and I wanted to see because I was like, oh, you know what? I don't know how long this game really is. So I know Atome Kitten at the bottom of her stuff usually tells you how long it took her to play, whatever. So it seems like it's a very lengthy fan disc, which is surprising. But also, what I noticed is she wrote in here in a general sense the side and encore stories, what we're playing, were just repeats of the route from the first game, but with more details and a few revisions and twists. So, okay, that answers my question. It's basically the same motherfucking shit we already played. They added a little bit and changed a little bit, but it's basically the same fucking shit. So that's why it feels like same shit, different day. Basically is. Okay. Which part of me minds because what the fuck? Why do we have the exact same route and you're just going to tweak it a little bit? That's kind of annoying, but part of me doesn't because I don't really remember. So it's almost like, oh, I think I remember that. Did this happen? You know what I mean? And it's at least kind of like filling the brain holes. And I'm like, okay. But I could see if you played Virche and you have a fucking better memory, okay, and it's not fucking Swiss cheese, that you are going to do this and be like, this is the same fucking... And that annoys me personally. I hate when I'm doing something and I can't skip and I'm like, it's the same thing. I'm reading the same lines over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it bores the fuck out of me. I hate that. So theoretically, I don't love this then as a concept, but because Spacey can't remember shit, I'm not too mad about it necessarily. But while I note, I do find it very funny. While the scenarios offer more nuance and emotional weight compared to the first game, I honestly found them totally unnecessary, and I can't say I disagree with that because just the thought process right now, okay, for me at the moment, I feel like some of it is different or I just don't remember it, and other ones seems very similar, and I'm like, okay. So if I had a better memory, I think I'd be more annoyed by having to reread the same shit that I just did, that we're rehashing it. And I think theoretically it does seem extremely unnecessary because however many hours it takes you to go through this, and okay, say it's only 2 or 3 hours, but that's for 5 love interests. You've got 10 to 15, maybe even 20 hours of your game replaying the same fucking shit you already played in the first game? I'd rather you not have that and the game just be 40 minutes. It's a fan disc, you know what I mean? They're like, hey, no, we're 60 hours. Although Atome Kitten does say it took her 60 hours to play, so it's going to take us fucking forever. And she skipped through Capucine's monologue. Didn't let the voice... I think part of it, too, is if you're listening to the voice acting. It takes longer for the voice acting to complete a line than it takes for you to read it yourself or me to read it out loud, you know what I mean? But... And then I always interject with thoughts like this, so we just wasted 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever, talking about this. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're spending the price of a full game and you're getting a full game, so cool. But also, is it necessary to redo the exact same thing, just to have slightly different things? And is the ending actually going to be different then? Or it's the same ending? Exactly, you just added a few hidden scenes. You know what I mean? Oh, we just added a few little conversations here, a little bit there, a little nuance. Is it necessary? I don't think. I would kind of agree. Theoretically, I don't think it's necessary either. But I'm not as mad about it as I normally would be because I don't remember half of this. So I'm like, well, I feel like I've done this before, but I don't really remember. So it's not bothering me like it would be if I had, say, replayed the game in my spare time to refresh myself, and then I'd be sitting here I just fucking read this 2 goddamn days ago, what the fuck? But it's been long enough for me that I'm like, I don't fucking remember. So hopefully for you guys, it's not boring rereading stuff that you could have just finished watching if you first watched the first game right before you came to this, or, if you have a better memory than me. So you will suffer more than I will. I don't know. Anyway, are you serious? Mathis of all people said that. It's not some kind of joke. Yeah, that bloodthirst was definitely real. Again, I just hope this doesn't take like 4 or 5 hours, because, that just seems like a waste. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine it. So, what happened to Mathis? Although there are choices in the encore, and it's like we haven't gotten any of them in the first hour, so I don't know. We either get them all back to back to back, or this is going to be pretty fucking long for something we already played, technically. It's almost as if he's a completely different person. We regrouped with Adolphe and Hugo and reported our encounter with Mathis, and John's over there like, well... Again, for me, right now, I'm like, it's refreshing my memory, so I'm not too mad, but at the same time, I don't know how I feel about it necessarily. I couldn't say I was surprised by how shocked they were at his sudden change. Still, I must say I was surprised you suggested to help with his revenge, Spacey, even if it was to stop a fight. I quickly raised my head at John's comment. About that, I did say that in the spur of the moment, but now that I think about it, I feel it's certainly a possible approach to take. Everyone there looked at each other in response to my suggestion. Whoa, hang on. You're not actually thinking of helping Mathis plot his revenge, are you? No way. Boro's already dangerous enough. But so is Mathis right now. If you do anything that agitates him at all, it's completely possible he might kill you. Are you okay? You just keep dancing around in circles. I won't do anything rash. I won't do anything to get in his way either. But I can't get information on Boro and keep track of where Mathis is and share all of that with you from the... Oh, but I can get information on Boro and keep track of where Mathis is and share all of that with you from that position. Still... Please, I just can't leave Mathis all alone like this. I can imagine she'll still go to Mathis, even if we try to stop her. Eve interrupted Adolphe's protest. Isn't that right, Spacey? Yes. I nodded, firmly standing by my decision. He tore up his precious manuscript without any hesitation at all. I want to know what happened to Mathis's body and mind. And above all... Never do anything to isolate a person, no matter who it is. That was what my brother told me when I was little, and I don't like being lonely either. I don't want to force Mathis to be alone in his current state. I want to be by his side no matter how much he might push me away or stab me. Spacey... Adolphe's stubbornness must have rubbed off on you. Indeed, I never knew you cared so deeply for the Master. I have no grounds to be sure of this, but I believe he'll be fine under your care, Spacey. Yeah, it'd spelled trouble if Mathis went crazy like before. And that said, with all of us chasing around after him with weapons, I'm sure it'd just end up as a fight to the death. In that sense, Spacey'd be perfect for this job, don't you think? Hugo's like, good, she'll go after Mathis and leave Eve alone. Right now, apparently I'm in love with Mathis, so you don't have to worry about me taking your boyfriend. Jesus, Hugo. Simmer down. After hearing everyone's opinions, Adolphe stood there in silence. However, he seemed to understand that I'd never change my stance, no matter how hard he tried to persuade me otherwise. And just don't do anything dangerous. With a frustrated expression, he gave me his approval. I still think it's funny that a lot of people hated Adolphe. I don't get it. I love him. After that, and again, I get love and Anko, but Anko is Adolphe. Look what that man did for us. I'm just saying. Well, look into Mathis's sudden change as well. That's just too extreme of a change. We might understand something by asking Lucas, who knows a lot about how children change and grow. You say that like Mathis is 8. He's 17 or something, and we're 8, right? He's only or is he 17, 18? He's not that much younger than us. He's not really a child. And Eve and Hugo left after making their suggestions. I went back and got my things, which included the transmitter and a dagger for self-defense, and began walking around Cohen in the hopes of finding Mathis. Because his attire stood out, I was able to quickly identify him. And also, I'm kind of hoping that, like, if they do something similar, at least if the ending is... I mean, I'm assuming the end... Well, because it is end encore. So it is... So, I mean, I guess that technically an encore is like, we're coming back... An encore is usually you come out and you do additional stuff, not gonna come out and do the... An encore performance... I mean, I guess it could be both ways. Like, you know what I mean? Like, bands come out and do an encore, but they do different songs. But an encore performance of a show would be the same show over again. So I guess it really just depends on, you know, what way you want to think about it. Although encore is really just doing the same shit over. You know? And in a band performance, it'd be you're performing again. You just do different songs. You know, so yeah, I mean, I guess we should have been, I guess I should have been prepared and thought, like, yeah, encore is just redoing the same damn shit. But again, slightly different. I hope the ending, though, is different. Where they're like, okay, it's basically leads up, but then we change the ending and it's not, again, the exact same ending. Because then again, then that would really feel weird. You're like, okay, it's the same thing. Like, adding more to it and then changing it a little. You know what I mean? Especially if you've got choices. And what's the point of the choices if it's going to be the exact same? You know what I mean? Anyway, I eventually found him in a corner of Cohen. Sitting on a bench in front of a waterway, he was gazing at his dagger for seemingly no reason at all. Quietly, I sat beside him. You refused to listen and still came after me. No matter how many times you ask, I won't cooperate, so... No, that's not why I'm here. I'm simply allowing myself to be with you. Mathis's hand stopped fiddling with his dagger. The eyes that looked at me were filled with confusion. When I asked if it was okay to be by your side, if I helped, you didn't say no, did you? Well... So I took advantage of your lack of a response and decided of my own accord to be by your side. Although I know that's a ridiculous way to think about it. You'd be in the way just by following me. I understand, which is why I'll do whatever I can to help take care of you. So please, will you let me stay with you? Mathis stood, seemingly annoyed. And then he simply turned his back to me and started to walk away. I guess not. What are you doing, just sitting there? Hurry up. Don't start being a bother to me already. Know that you'll be following any order I give you, since you're the one who suggested this. And I don't necessarily remember this either. Right. As he stopped himself to wait for me, I rushed after him with a smile. What Mathis chose to use as his base was a small, empty cottage no one was living in between Cohen and Cheetahs. When did you find this place? I asked my question as I put down my things. I was looking for a place I could use today. From here I can quickly get to Cheetahs when Boros shows up. Mathis set down some daggers, his tools for revenge, and other belongings upon a slightly dusty table. And clean up all these daggers. I'll be busy organizing all the testimonies of Boros' sightings. Oh. You're gonna help me, right? Or was that all just talk? You don't want to touch anything used to kill someone? No, I was just a bit surprised. Are you sure it's all right for me to handle these? Stop stalling and do it. If you weren't going to help me, then I'll chase you out of here this instant. I nodded right away in reply to his obstinate demand. Yes, I'll begin right now. Once I'm done, I'll go shopping for dinner tonight. It's like, I forgot about food. While recalling how to maintain blades the way Adolphe taught me, using some tools I carefully cleaned and sharpened the daggers meant to be stabbed into Boro. How's this? I timidly asked Mathis, and he took one of the finished daggers in hand. And after lightly touching its blade... Not bad, I guess. He nodded in approval after checking the small bead of blood that appeared on him. Mathis, you're bleeding. And this is nothing. After lightly wiping away the blood, he stared at me. I didn't expect this. I always knew you to be the kind and gentle type that sees all life as precious. I thought you'd try something like dulling my knives to sabotage and stop me from carrying out my revenge. He spoke, a bit taken aback, and I replied, You would know right away! And I'm afraid of you. I feel like both of these are very valid answers. At least we're getting choices now. Both of them are absolutely valid. I have no idea. Both. I'm afraid of you. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think of trying that. But I'm afraid of making you angry in your current state, so I stopped myself. I suppose I should commend you at least for being an obedient servant. And with that, Mathis lowered himself to the floor and lay down. I'm going to sleep. I don't need dinner. Understood. But there is a bed after all. You don't need to sleep on the floor. If Boro appears, I can get up and move right away from a bed. I can't get up and move right away from a bed. And besides, a bed in a rundown cottage like this would hardly be comfortable. You use it. I thought for a moment. He's like, yeah, it would hardly be comfortable sleeping in a bed. You should use it. And it's like, you're actually just being nice, which is kind of fun. And then took some sheets that were on the bed and approached Mathis. Putting them over both Mathis and myself, I lay down on the floor as well. What are you doing? No servant could possibly use a bed while their master is on the floor. Also, neither of us have to worry about catching a cold if we put the sheet over both of us. What a terrible excuse. Well, you wouldn't be able to carry out your investigation if you fall ill, right? Do what you want. After giving me an annoyed look, Mathis turned away from me. Good night, Mathis. There was no response. We're going to force you to love us by loving you unconditionally. Good night, Spacey. I'll see you tomorrow. That he didn't wish me a good night. That we couldn't talk about his novel. That I couldn't see his smile. It was sad. It was all so sad. Because I don't remember that. I mean, I remember him being a little bit psycho, but I thought we ended up in that one in the basement and being tortured, whatever, by Camille. You know what I mean? So I don't remember necessarily this. So again, I don't know if this is just added context. They add a little bit more into it, a little, they're like to lengthen it out, So I'm not sure. I feel like a child. I pulled the sheets over me and criticized myself for being weak. Until the chase for Boro ends and you return to your kind, gentle self, I'll be by your side. I promise not to leave you. Flashback to one of our first CGs in the original game. If I still have these warm memories of you. No matter what anyone might say to me, I will believe in Mathis Claude from the bottom of my heart. Mathis perspective, okay. Interesting. I couldn't tell much time had passed after I closed my eyes to force myself to sleep. Next to me was that carefree woman, sleeping with a peaceful expression. She looked as if the space beside me was the safest place she could possibly be. What is she thinking after I hit her like that? Maybe that entire memory was erased from her mind. Or maybe she remembered it and was simply this defenseless. She's honestly an eyesore. She won't help in a fight. She spouts nonsense that only sounds pretty, which irritates me. And yet, why am I letting her stay here? I can easily push her away. As I lay there thinking, Mathis, I promise, won't leave you, she murmured carelessly in her sleep. Having someone ask me for help was special to me, Is it? I mean, it's fuzzy and grainy and she's hugging. I don't remember this. Is this a new fuzzy, like, looks like the little girl from The Ring's about to bust out your TV? Like, I don't remember this if this was a CG from the first game or we're, like, clawing, like, cuddling him in our sleep and he's freaking the fuck out. So I don't know if that's a new CG or not, but it meant more to me because of how important it was. I didn't want you to be killed in some lonely place because I couldn't be of any help to you. Or is that a memory in his brain? Because that was staticky, and you know what I mean? Also, he's not getting, like, rebooted, and doesn't he need to be rebooted constantly? So, like, Jean must be over there like, what the fuck? What an idiot. She's trapped herself in her own words. The moment it reached 10 o'clock at my internal clock, I suddenly felt sleepy. Unable to fight the urge to sleep, I closed my eyes. I'll do anything to exact my revenge, even if it meant working with this woman to the very end. Right, because, okay, so yeah, because, like, 10 o'clock is like, whoop, I felt, oh, okay. I was like, you think Jean's going to show up and be like, oh, good, now I've got them, and I kidnap them and lock them in a basement. That's what I was wondering. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. I wonder who first thought of such a thing. I'm surprised. His need for revenge is much greater than I imagined. I didn't think he'd be so possessed by his revenge on Boro. The emotions born from his memories seem to have developed further. In that sense, it could be said that the experiment with Mathis was an astounding success. It could never be as strong as the love between me and Rosalie. But his hatred is stronger than most people's love. I guess in a sense it means this experiment was a success. I do feel like this is, I mean, because I don't think we had him talking like that until the reveal happened and we were locked in the basement. So, like, this is where I feel like they added additional stuff because, again, I don't know how it's going to end or where it's going to go, but this definitely didn't happen in the first game, I feel like, because we didn't know until we woke and we were like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then he revealed who he was and you knew the experiment in the basement and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Hate was an emotion very close to love. If I rebuilt her memories on the foundation of this experiment, the possibility of reviving a Rosalie who loved me was high. I should send these results to my supporters and ask for their opinion. Is that it? Was Capucine supporting Jean? Like, I don't remember that, though. Like, his supporters, like, who was supporting him? Would make sense because somebody was stealing the equipment that he was getting. So, like, you know what I mean? And, like, Capucine also has stolen equipment. So, like, but I can't remember if they ever told us that. In order to make sure my findings are correct, I need Mathis to come back to me. If he's away for a few days without his memories being downloaded, his personality will become slightly unstable. But he won't hold out for a week. I won't lose my precious specimen over some fabricated desire for revenge. The thing is, he knows that Mathis is going to zonk out, and that's when you put a bag over him, chloroform him, and drag his ass back. The next day, good morning, Mathis. About breakfast, We'll make do with something from the marsh. Making something without a kitchen would be a pain. Right. What? Is there something on my face? No. Did he seem somewhat different from yesterday? He doesn't sound as forceful. Maybe it's because he's just woken up. Wondering what it might be, I gathered our things and headed out with him to go shopping. As we bought some bread at the first stall we came across at the marsh. Today we'll really start investigating the whereabouts of Boro. Right. Even while gulping down somewhat hardened bread into his stomach, Mathis spoke with a strong look of determination. The victim who was killed the other day was a prostitute. Which means the incident with the missing prostitutes has something to do with their being relivers. And that's what I'm thinking. I guess that the others were now looking into how he... how he became a reliever as well, then we might be able to get some information if we seek out where they might have gone. Right. It's a pain, but for the moment, let's ask around the places the prostitutes might hang around. He yawned after he spoke, as if to emphasize just how much of a pain it was. It really is a pain. If only someone would just let themselves get killed by Boro right now. Mathis! It's a fact that it would be best way to find him. Mathis looked away from my glare and started walking off after taking the last bite of his bread. A prostitute with pretty black hair. Oh, I think I seen her coming in and out of Cheetahs. After getting done with her business, she often went to her favorite bar of hers. Would you know where that bar is? It's connected to the marsh at the west. Small bar. A lot of the prostitutes make it their gathering spot. Are we done here? Boro might be dead, but I still don't want to get too involved. Yes, thank you for speaking with us. Asking around for information's pretty easy with you here. If any man not part of the court was asking around about a woman, they'd definitely catch the attention of the royal guard. I'm glad to be of help. Should we get going to the bar that man told us about? Yeah. I joined Mathis as he headed toward the bar with somewhat listless yet determined steps. It was still noon, but the sound of women's voices enjoying their drinks filled the bar. Sorry. Oh, what a pretty boy. Care to have a drink with me? Nope. Aw, how cold. Give it up. He's got a pretty girl with him, see? Mathis continued to be annoyed as he dodged the women's advances while we asked around for information. We then came across one woman who let us in on a rumor. Oh, the girls who went missing? Thanks to the deliverer, I bet they're there by now. Okay, and I remember this story, but I don't remember if it was in Mathis's or whatever, but the deliverer is Jean. Perhaps living a free life in a foreign land in the outside world. Huh? The outside world? The deliverer? Huh, didn't you all come to ask about their whereabouts and the ritual? The deliverer? A man you could meet along the shores on nights when the moon's hidden. If a woman were to put his favorite flowers in a bottle and raise them to the stars, this beautiful man would take her on a small boat and deliver her to another country. Well, the beautiful man does show up, but he doesn't quite deliver you to another country so much as death, but whatever. This rumor spread through our line of work starting a few years ago. The more we heard about it, the more we longed to leave this place. So these women performed the rituals and are now missing? The woman nodded charmingly in response to Mathis's question. A beautiful man. For just a moment, Anko's face flashed in my mind, but I doubted he would do such a thing. Well, because there was an ending, right, in some route, and I don't remember if it was Mathis's, where we do go show up with a bottle of flowers, whatever, and then John's there and ha, got you, and now maybe that was in Mathis's route, and that's how he gets us, and then, then we end up in the basement, and then he reveals he's Camille and all of his shenanigans and stuff. So this could, again, be exactly what happened, but I don't remember the staying in the little house with Mathis, definitely I don't think there was, Jean having an aside moment talking about his experiment, because that would have revealed too much, and I don't think it was until you go with the flowers onto the beach and then you get that reveal. You know what I mean? But again, that could have also been in somebody else's, another ending in a different part. You know what I mean? After you already know what Jean's deal is. But I thought it was Mathis's, and that's how he gets him back, maybe. I doubted he would do such a thing. Ongo, not Jean. I quickly dismissed that thought. So what you said is the reason why so many women have gone missing? There really must be something, believing in such a worthless and ridiculous rumor. I'd say they had little choice but to believe in it. The only way a woman in this country can live beyond 23 and find happiness is to become a reliever. Naturally, it requires money, so we sell our most valuable asset, our bodies. But even if they did that and somehow became relivers, we're then doomed to be despised by the very men who seek us out, as well as others who believe our minds and bodies are filthy. On rare occasions, some of our clients do end up taking us as their brides, but only a handful are lucky enough for that. So you see, we're trapped in this job once we begin. Do you blame us for longing to leave that life and believing in a better future? She went on to say that there was a reason those who went missing were ignored and dismissed as unimportant cases. Similar to the woman Eve was looking for, most of them lived on the go without a permanent address, and no one saw enough value in their lives to care whether they went missing or not. The girls who tested their luck with the ritual are gone because they were finally able to leave. I sincerely believe they're living a new life with someone they love. Well, they're not actually living at all, but okay. And the girl with the long black hair also wanted to leave? Yes, she said she's going to leave with her brother, who was living in the slums, and was excited to get all of her things in order. Ah! No, sis! Sis! Right now, that's the MVP flashback, because we've had it twice. Siblings, huh? Along with her, plenty of other girls were talking about becoming happy with the children they were carrying. Some of the women who have gone missing were pregnant? Most of them? I mean, right, because, right, that this, okay, so see, I remember this. Yes, but not the girl with the black hair. And now that I think about it, a lot of girls who tried out the ritual weren't able to make money during the time they were pregnant. If so, they wanted to believe the rumors and saw the other missing women as those who were successful in leaving the island. Yeah, and the pregnant women trying to leave, Jean wanted their fetal tissues and everything, so he murdered them. Like, I mean, yeah, like, we remembered that. But then that woman died was Boro, and it's kind of like, I can't remember if they're, like, in shenanigans or cahoots, or, like, she didn't make it to him, or he was like, no, you're not pregnant, so get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really remember that, but at least that's what I assumed. The disappearances and murders happened on the same day. It's highly possible that this Deliverer and Boro are the same person. Deliverer, a mysterious person who's said to appear on a boat to deliver people out of Arpachel on cloudy nights. He's summoned when a woman goes to the beach and raises a bottle filled with flowers up to the stars. If that's the case, shouldn't we follow more rumors about the Deliverer? Deliverer. If you're interested in the Deliverer, let me give you this jar I made, just to look at. The jar I made just to look at. The woman gave a meaningful look at me standing next to Mathis. But I don't see a need to leave this place if you have a lover who cares about you. Huh? Oh. It took me a few seconds to understand that by lover, she was referring to Mathis. We aren't in that sort of relationship. It was just so awkward that I hung my head down as I denied her assumption. Right. This woman's just my servant. A pawn meant only to be used by me. She'd never be my lover. My, how terrible! At that rate, she'll get fed up with you and run away, you know. That's fine. I'll just act on my own then. If Boro and the Deliverer are the same person, another prostitute might get killed. I'm sure the woman who went missing are already dead by now. I don't want to lose hope, but that possibility is certainly high. Leaving the bar, I walked with Mathis, continuing to gather information. Judging by the clouds, it seems the moon will be hidden behind them tomorrow night. If we tempt the Deliverer to come out then, we might be able to figure out who he is. Right. We've gotten the jar we need, too. But I wonder why the flowers are necessary. It's just a marker. There's no need to think about it. And that said, it seems like the only ones who can conduct the ritual are women. It's possible for us to pay one of the women around here to do it for us, but it'd be a pain to explain the situation to them. As he looked around, Mathis's eyes fell on me. Aren't you glad I came along then? Oh, right. We have perfectly good bait right here. His eyes narrowed as he smiled. You said you were going to help me, which means you'll do what I ask, right? If that's the only way, promise you'll capture him. I feel like it's promise you'll capture him, because if it's the only way, is like, all right, if it's the only way, and promise you'll capture him is like, well, then again, maybe promise you'll capture him is like, promise you'll capture him, not kill him. So that could be bad. Okay, I'm not really sure then. No, it's promise you'll capture him. Okay. Because I was originally thinking if that's the only, if that's the only way, but like, promise you'll capture him and I'll do it. Like I'm gung ho to do it, which would be, get you more points with him. Understood. But in exchange, if Porto does show up, please promise you'll capture him. I don't want to see any more innocent women killed. Mathis almost looked surprised by how I replied without hesitation. Do you not imagine you'll be killed like those prostitutes? I'd be lying if I said I wasn't afraid. But I feel this is a much better plan than putting another woman in danger. Huh. Well, that's a very kind gesture to some woman you don't even know. Yeah, well, we have to look out for each other because nobody else is going to do it. Jesus. After explaining myself, I rushed after Mathis, who continued off to the cottage. On the way home, we spent some time at the marsh, gathering information there as well. It was late by the time we got back to our base. After having dinner and bathing ourselves, I covered Mathis with a bedsheet, and he quickly fell asleep. I was watching him all day today. Mathis really is acting strange, but I'm not convinced it's just from his obsession for revenge. I quietly stepped outside, careful not to wake him. When... Spacey. Lucas, look who's back. I rushed over to my teacher, who suddenly appeared before me. What are you doing here, Lucas? I hadn't told anyone where I'd gone apart from Adolphe and his team. I was making my rounds through the orphanages when I saw the two of you enter that cottage. I asked Adolphe about what's been happening with you two, and I came here because I was worried. Oh, I'm sorry for worrying you. No need to apologize. You're just doing what you can to support Mathis in the best way possible, right? But more importantly, Eve spoke with me as well, about how Mathis has been acting strangely. Yeah. I decided it was okay to share since he knew that much already. I explained to Lucas the events that transpired, as well as Mathis's change in attitude over the course of a few days. It's as if, with each passing day, he's becoming a different person. Sorta. That must mean... Lucas fell deep in thought, as if convinced about something. Lucas, do you have an idea of what might be happening? Yes, this is only a theory. Lucas seemed hesitant to speak, yet he explained clearly what was on his mind. Could it be that Mathis is actually becoming a different person right now? Well, I said that's what it seems like. Huh? What do you mean by that? In the records left by the former teacher of the area I'm responsible for, there are notes of a child with similar issues to what Mathis is exhibiting right now. With every little thing that happens, his attitude changes. Things like his tone of voice and how he refers to himself. That's exactly like the sudden changes I've seen in Mathis. Could it be there's some sort of serious illness behind this? No, it seemed this child had no health issues at all. However, after further examinations and experiments, it was concluded that this child wasn't only growing and changing, but that he was switching into different persona entirely. His persona? Perhaps a way to explain it would be to say two memories were downloaded into the same body. Or I don't think we had this conversation with Lucas, but this is exactly what's happening to Mathis. I'd never seen or heard anything like that before. However, considering the reality of the changes in Mathis, it was impossible for me to deny what Lucas suggested. Of course, I cannot say for sure. The symptoms this child showed were different from the changes occurring in Mathis at present. It's written that the child was unable to integrate memories between personalities. Does that mean he was unable to remember things from one persona while he was in the other? Yes. The memories of the active persona A aren't carried over to the dormant persona B, at least not according to the records. However, Mathis seems to have a clear point of connection between his personalities. The memory of his brother being killed, correct? Yes, whatever personality Mathis has, his need for revenge against Boro has never disappeared. I see. In that case, it could be a different affliction that shares similarities with that disorder. Depending on the situation, it may be necessary to discuss this matter with doctors or other teachers. But it would be terribly dangerous to force Mathis to go to anyone as he is now. Yeah, I believe so too. And there's still the need to investigate Boro. I'd like to stay with Mathis in the meantime. Understood. Let me know right away if anything unusual happens. Both you and Mathis are precious students of mine. Please take care not to push yourselves. Right. After that, I gave Lucas the information we gathered, including that of the deliverer, and asked him to share it all with Adolphe. After seeing Lucas off, I quietly headed back into the cottage. At the center of the room, Mathis lay there, still breathing quietly in his sleep. After gazing at his face for a moment, Spacey. It had been so long since he called my name in such a clear and kind voice. Mathis? Even though I knew he was just talking in his sleep, I couldn't help but answer him. I didn't know if he heard me, but as soon as I spoke, his face softened and relaxed. And the most important person I care for so much. Once I have revenge, when I atone for my sins, let's write a novel again. A tear fell from me. Yes, yes. I dried my eyes with my sleeve so that my tears wouldn't fall into Mathis's cheeks. That's a promise. It's a promise, okay? It had been so long since I smiled like this, and I quickly curled up next to him. I'll stay by your side no matter what. What came to mind was the truth just revealed by Lucas. A different persona. So that would mean the one who tore up the novel wasn't the original Mathis. Fair enough. Sort of true. The Mathis Claude I spent all this time with in the past is still sleeping somewhere deep in his mind. And to me, that was the hope I had that Mathis of the past might come back to me. The following night, under the faint light of the moon, hidden behind the clouds, I began the ritual just as I was taught. I raised the clear bottle filled with water and beautiful flowers to the sky. So then this I feel like is like, okay, because I don't think we didn't see the Lucas thing. And we might have had the talking to the prostitute thing, like in the bar, because I'm pretty sure she told us about this. But like maybe the scenes with us staying in the cottage weren't whatever. But I think this, now we're back to what happened in the original, because I think this is where, and then, we had disappeared and left. And again, it's slightly different. They altered it, but like, Jean's going to show up and we're going to be like, oh, it was him all along. You know what I mean? The flowers slowly swayed in the water as the starlight silently glimmered through it. Huh. Perhaps it was my fault for focusing on the bottle in my hand. Before I could react, someone moved behind me and put their hand on my shoulder. I felt my throat quivering. My instincts were demanding I scream out loud for help. But if I were to do that now, this person would know that Mathis was nearby. I bit my lip and suppressed my urge to shout. Then I prepared myself to be struck unconscious when... Don't move! Before that, Mathis snuck up to us without making a sound, pointing a knife to the person's back. Who are you? Boro? Or someone else? If you don't fess up, this knife's gonna straight through your heart. I guessed he was pressing it into their back as their grip on my arm grew tense. Wait a moment. You're mistaken. She's someone I know. That is why I approached her. Oh, unless it's supposed to be Anko. Wasn't Anko showing up? Because then he would recognize Jean. You know her? That voice. Oh, wait. Do I? I don't know if I remember that. Capucine? Yes, I hope you've been well. I'd offer to follow up on your condition, but... Before that, I must ask you to convince this man to lower his knife. Actually, I think. Why do I feel? Am I faking it? Like remembering this, and because it was like the bamboozle, you're like, Capucine is the murder. But Capucine working with Jean? But like, you think it's Capucine, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. We know he's a shady bastard, and then he just seemed like a shady bastard. I don't know if we knew he was a shady bastard in Mathis's route right away, but then you think it's him, and then it's Jean, and then you're like, and it's the bamboozle. Why do I feel like this is familiar now? I mean, coming to the scene is definitely familiar, but now I'm like, wait a minute. Do I remember, or am I like thinking I remember? You know what I mean? It's a false memory. I don't know. Of Capucine showing up. I mean, a few minutes later, Mathis lowered the knife, and a bit after that, Adolphe and the others, who I had reported to about the deliverer, caught up to us. I never thought you'd both go for a plan like this, Spacey. You remember that I told you not to put yourself in danger, right? I don't remember this. I'm sorry, but there just wasn't any other way. It's quite all right. I'm sure for the most part my master forced you into it. You were safe in the end, though. And the deliverer didn't show up either. In the direction Eve looked, Mathis was glaring at Capucine. You really aren't Borrow or the deliverer? Yes, you may look into my whereabouts during the incidents. This is the closest shore to my hospital. Patients sometimes escape here, and our doctors take walks here as well. And I remember him saying this, and you're like, I don't know. It's a little sus. But then you find out he had nothing. Well, it's not that he had nothing to do with it, but he's not the deliverer. You know what I mean? And so you were taking a look around to check if there was anyone you needed to bring back. Indeed, I've never seen anyone suspicious otherwise. He wouldn't kidnap women in such conspicuous clothing. The credibility of his testimony is fairly high. Jean and Capucine sound like each other, but whatever. So we're back to where we started then. Mathis kicked the sand in anger. Everyone else there had been updated by Lucas and couldn't hide their surprise or concern. Master, won't you consider coming back to the mansion? I won't ask you to give up your plans for revenge, so... No, there's still a mountain of places I need to investigate. But Mathis, we have limited money and food at the moment. How about we return to the mansion just to restock the bare essentials? Mathis fell silent, possibly considering that what I said made sense. All right, but not tonight. I'll go back once I'm completely sure the deliverer really isn't here. Understood, and then I shall await your arrival at the mansion tomorrow. It'll be a lot of work to investigate this massive shoreline alone. I'll help out. Yeah, let's split up and look around the area. And then once we're done, we'll call it a night. I'm sure the deliverer wouldn't try and kidnap anyone but this rowdy bunch here. I accompanied Mathis and searched the coastline to the south. There seemed to be no one else around, and all we could hear were the waves splashing against the shore. At the very least, it doesn't seem like the deliverer is here. I was unsure whether to be happy that there'd be no new victims tonight, or sad that we couldn't find the deliverer. I'm surprised. Huh? I thought a cowardly woman like you would have started pathetically shouting and crying the moment that man grabbed your arm. I made up my mind with this comment. Of course I was terrified on the inside, but if I screamed at that moment, the deliverer might have escaped, and I felt that you would come save me right away. No, I knew you would. I felt that all I had to do was carry out my duty as bait. And that's true. I wouldn't have let anyone who might be Borrow escape. But how can you trust me so much? And there's no way you've forgotten the way I treated you these past few days. Yes, you've been scary. You're stronger than my fear. It's like my love for you is stronger than my fear. But yes, you've been scary. You're stronger than my fear. I'm interested in what that one might be. Okay, that's what it is. I might be afraid of you as you are now, but I can tell that your feelings toward your brother are getting stronger. I trusted the feelings you have for your brother. You'd never let the deliverer escape. For some reason, I firmly believe that to be true. Don't act like you know me. But I suppose that's far better than deluding yourself into believing I did it for you. As he heard my answer to him, Mathis began walking over the rocks again. If that really was the deliverer earlier, and by extension Boro, I definitely would have been able to kill him. And it would have been thanks to you for standing your ground. I suppose I'll thank you for that, even though it didn't end up being him. She's in shock. I'll use you again next time I need bait. It'd be better than using another woman, after all. I suppose. I could take that as Mathis offering me his gratitude. Even if that weren't the case, I was happy about him implying that I helped. Yes, of course. You shouldn't be so happy volunteering to be bait, you fool. I couldn't help but reply in a manner unfitting for the situation. After that, we split up and looked around the surrounding area. Unable to find anyone who might be the deliverer, we exchanged information with Adolphe and the others before parting ways. The next day, Mathis awoke shortly after I did. Good morning, Mathis. I'll get breakfast for us from the marsh right away. So please wait just a moment. That's fine, but what are you doing? His personality changed again. Mathis's quiet voice was a stark change from his cold personality. Lucas's theory was gaining more and more credibility. Those are the papers I tore up, right? Mathis spoke, looking at what was laid out in front of me. The pile of torn papers from his manuscript. Really? We're packing light and you're carrying that? Oh, this is... He might criticize me again, but I didn't want to lie. I'm trying to put it back together, hoping we can read some part of it still. I just couldn't throw it away. I see. He answered back, seemingly uninterested, and left to get water for washing his face. I should hurry and get the shopping finished. Did you bring tape with you? How are you putting them back together? I brought some sandwiches, thinking they might be what current Mathis would enjoy. And there I found Mathis reading the novel I was trying to fix. Mathis? I meant the good part. Don't interrupt me. Okay. His face was so intense as he flipped through the papers. He looked similar to the way he was in the past when he would focus so hard on whatever he was reading. And there's no more. I guess these pages end right in the middle of this part. Where's the rest of it? Any pages that weren't torn were left at the mansion. Well, I won't know what happens next then. You don't remember what you wrote? I remember that I wrote it, but I forgot most of it after planning my revenge. Mathis put down the papers as he spoke, as if he was making a plea to the author when he himself wrote the story. Are you curious about what happens next? I asked timidly. I think it's not bad for something I only read to kill time. He didn't criticize his novel, the thing I was afraid of most. I felt somewhat happy about that. What are you smiling about? Oh, sorry. I was just happy you took an interest in the novel. If you're wondering what happens next, would you like me to tell you what I remember? Mathis stood silently in response to my suggestion. I thought perhaps I was being overbearing about the novel when... He grabbed my arm and pulled me to him. CG. We got a CG. Oh, this is adorable. Stop it. Under the fucking sheet. With the... Oh! Oh, it's so cute! Look at it! Oh! He then sat me down on the floor and covered the bedsheet over our heads. Now, with nothing else in sight, Mathis's face was immediately in front of me. You can take care of breakfast later. Tell me what happens next in the story. What happens after the protagonists enter Hades and see fields of black flowers around them? I hurried and searched through my memories to respond to him. Right. The protagonists encounter another death who is nothing but friendly and form a bond of friendship with him. And then he aids them in defeating the death that cursed Arpachel. But the death who was kind had a tremendous secret. What is it? Mathis's eyes looked at me, begging for me to continue. Those eyes, they looked so much like when he used to read books with so much joy. It made me happy. It felt nostalgic. Filled with renewed enthusiasm, I continued. That death was originally a human and was sent to Hades after a curse was put on him. Originally a human? That's right. That's why he knew about how the town was laid out. Oh, good catch. That was a part you foreshadowed earlier. And so, after the kind death showed them a way to defeat the other death, he sacrificed his own life in order to allow the protagonist to escape back to the surface world. Back on the surface, the protagonists vow to defeat their death while still mourning their friend's sacrifice. I paused, finishing off a portion of the story, and Mathis sighed in thought after listening intently to my story. Well, he didn't die in vain. He gave the protagonists a way forward. A pretty big difference from you, a death who's only good for housekeeping chores. I suppose. I think he was a kind, strong, wonderful death. Don't be dumb. I'm mocking you. Oh. I hadn't seen it for so long, but just now, I felt like I saw him smile naturally. Well, you did tell the story really well. You didn't stumble over your words or anything. I'm surprised you remember the contents of such a long novel. It's because I was reading along and talking to you practically every day as you wrote it. It's a precious memory of mine I'd never forget, no matter what. I don't think such memories would help with anything, though. That's not true. At the very least, they give me strength to continue living. Mathis pulled the sheet off of us, and we got up off the floor. After I'm done with breakfast, I'll be heading back to the mansion to get supplies I need, so come with me. As long as it doesn't get in the way, you can get the papers that were left behind. Yeah, thank you. It seemed it was true. Even if his personality's changing, he's still Mathis. An earnest person who just couldn't help but love novels. We ain't ever leaving that mansion, though, right? I've been awaiting you both. I have a message from Adolphe. He says he and his team have investigated Cohen and haven't heard of any women going missing since last night. I see. That's a relief. We don't know what'll happen in the future, though. The weather's been unstable these past few days, so it's easy for the moon to be hidden behind clouds. Yes, Adolphe's keeping that in mind as well, and telling all the prostitutes to stay indoors at night. But the prostitutes make money at night. I'm not sure a single one of them would follow that order. Well, at least they ain't going to the beach with a bottle looking for a guy who's gonna stab them. Just saying. Yes, perhaps that may be so. And they have a positive impression of that ritual as well, after all. If the prostitutes won't stop going out at night, we have no other choice than to use that to our advantage and hunt Boro. Master, I'm not finished! Before Jean could stop him, Mathis left for his room to get his things. He's gone. I've heard from Lucas about his changing personality, but I did not think he'd be this different. I'm sure a conversation wouldn't last very long with him right now. I apologize for all the trouble we've put you through, Spacey. No, it's all right. However, did you have any idea about Mathis's unstable personality, Jean? I didn't. I simply imagined his bloodthirst for Boro and his fits of rage when he drives the car were merely quirks. I'm ashamed as his butler that I would not notice such abnormalities in my master. It's not your fault you didn't notice. I've never heard of anyone switching personalities either. Thank you very much. For your sake as well, I hope my master comes back to his normal self as soon as possible. Yeah, I hope so too, but while I wish for Mathis to return to his normal, everyday life, I don't want to criticize Mathis for who he is now. No matter which Mathis he might be, I want to be with him just as I promised. Even if he were to tell me he's no longer my friend. Jean? I wonder what might be wrong, seeing him suddenly fall silent. Oh, no. I was just so moved by her way of thinking. You're very strong. It's as if you're opening your heart to all the new versions of my master you meet. And that gave him an idea. Um, Here's the thing. If he lets us leave this, then I feel like then they're just like dragging out the ending because it's like, okay, I get it. They're adding stuff to it and nuances, but now we're back. Bonk us over the head and lock us up and let's get this on. You know what I mean? Like now you're just adding sort of pointless stuff. You know what I mean? All the Mathises. It did make sense when put that way. You'll be staying the night at the mansion, won't you? I shall prepare any food you need, so please remain by my master's side. Thank you very much. I'll take you up on your offer then. Okay, good. He's going to knock us out probably. He's not going to let us leave, I would assume. You know what I mean? Because, like, he got us to come back, and it's one of those, like, there's no need for us to leave and do all that, and, like, and keep going and, like, drag it out, you know? But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.